Running a Bitcoin node is one of the most important things you can do as a Bitcoiner. Not only is it your vote in which way the direction of the network is built, but it's also your gateway to use the Bitcoin network in a permissionless and uncensored manner. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can recycle an old PC to run a Bitcoin node. We're going to be running Bitcoin Knots using the StartOS, so let's do it. So before we jump right into the how-to, let's first go over things at a high level. What we're going to achieve in this video is we're going to set up our own Bitcoin node on existing hardware and using the StartOS operating system. Then we're going to set up our Sparrow wallet to use our new node. That way all of our transactions that we do within Sparrow will be taking place through our node and we'll be keeping our privacy. And finally, we're going to explore some of the other apps that StartOS platform ships with, and also talk a little bit about the community repos and just go over some of the basic things regarding the StartOS. So going into it, this is the server that I will be working with today. This was my Bitcoin node. Well, it still is my Bitcoin node, but I had to take it down just for this video. You see that external SSD that I had sitting right there on the top? That's where I had all my Bitcoin blockchain data being stored to, but I didn't really like that. I had to do this because I only had a 500 gigabyte storage on the inside, but I did upgrade to a 2 terabyte storage internally. So we're going to be getting rid of that in the video. Now your server might look something like this, but it's all the same thing. You just need some old PC that still works, that still turns on. If you had a machine that's like running Windows currently, I know Windows 11 came out a few months ago and a lot of people are jumping ship. That hardware is probably really well suited for this, for this project here. So go ahead and find that. Some of the specs that we need here is StartOS says that we're going to need at least 4 gigabytes of RAM, but your PC might have a little bit more than that, so just make sure you have at least 4. And also StartOS, they say you should have 64 gigs of storage somewhere on here, but I think you should have at least 2 terabytes, and that's just because this drive that we're going to be putting in there, it's going to be holding the Bitcoin blockchain, which is already approaching 1 terabyte. And then you got to hold the StartOS stuff, and then you got to hold all the other apps that you're going to be installing. So I do recommend you getting at least a 2 terabyte storage for your machine here. I have some links here to them. So this is the one that I installed on my machine. Well, kind of. It's just like this, but it's a different brand. I have a Lexar that fell into my hands. So I installed this into my server already. But if you don't have one, you can pick one up here. There'll be links in the description. If your PC doesn't use the M.2 NVMe ports, then you can pick up the SATA ports here, or the SATA drive, I should say. So that's what this is here. And then you also might need an adapter in case you're upgrading from a 3.5-inch HDD drive into a 2.5-inch SSD. So if you need help with this, you could look up other videos or maybe book some time with me on my site, and I could help you more personally with this kind of stuff. But it's pretty straightforward. Anyways, once you have that PC ready to go, you're going to need a USB flash drive. So anything like 16 to 64 gigs works perfectly. This flash drive is just going to be used to move the StartOS operating system, from our downloads folder and install it onto our server. Then we're going to need an internet connection and a router with an extra LAN port. That way we can just tap into the back and just get right into our network. This is an overview of what your network will look like by the time we're done with this. This is your home network here in this big white box. Your modem is probably what your ISP gave you, so it's probably a modem and router combo. This is what gives out your Wi-Fi signal, and it's also where your 4 LAN ports are available in the back, most likely. But your modem and router is basically your gateway to the internet. So your modem basically brings in the internet from the outside world, and your router is basically like it distributes that information. So your computer is going to be running your Sparrow wallet, and that's connected to your network via Wi-Fi. And then your server is going to be plugged into the back of your modem here, and your server is going to be running StartOS as the main operating system. But then on top of that, it's going to be running Bitcoin inside of it, Electrum inside of it, and then also whatever other apps that you decide you want to be running. The overall process that we're going to be going over is, first, we're just going to jump in and we're going to make sure our hardware looks good, make sure everything turns on, and basically just do a quick performance check. After we have that, then we're going to start creating our StartOS installer. And what I mean by that is we're going to need to be flashing the StartOS onto our own flash drive. I'll show you how to do that next. And then once we have our installer, we're going to take this to our actual server and install it and start configuring the StartOS operating system. After the StartOS is already configured, then we're going to start setting up our software, which is going to be Bitcoin, Electrum, etc. But please take note that syncing the Bitcoin blockchain may take time. I don't know how long it's going to take on this PC. We're going to find out. But when I was doing this on the Raspberry Pi, it took me about 5 weeks to sync. I don't imagine this is going to take nearly as long, just because it's a much bigger PC with more capable hardware. And then finally, in the process, when we're done setting everything up, then we're going to set up our Sparrow wallet to use our node for all future operations. So as we kick this off, I'd like to first ask you, if you're enjoying this content, please drop a like, a subscribe, and maybe tell your friends about this stuff and show them the magic of running a node. So anyways, the first thing I did here is I upgraded my SSD. Here's an image of my SSD installed on my motherboard. This is the 2 terabyte drive that I was talking about. I removed the old one and just replaced it with this one. Next, I'm going to turn it on and give it a quick performance check, just to make sure everything's working. I have Debian installed on this machine. I installed it onto this SSD. That way I can just show you what it's like to overwrite the existing data. Like, let's say you have Windows running currently. I just wanted to have something on my drive. That way I can show you what it's like to overwrite the old system. So here, as you can see in this command output here, the first command I ran was uname-m, and this is going to tell me the architecture set of this PC that I'm running. So you can see it's an x86-64 architecture set. This command will work on any Unix-based system like Linux or Mac. I never installed this StartOS on Mac, so do that at your own risk if that's what you're doing. Anyways, the command after is the lsblk. I'm just listing my block devices that are connected to my system, and I'm just doing that to verify that I have a 2 terabyte drive. You can see that there in the NVMe ON1P2. It's the 1.8 terabyte partition there. So it looks like everything is working as it should be. If you're on Windows and you want to see what your architecture set is, you can basically just open up your settings, click System, click About, and then find the system type value there. So you should see something like x86 64 or maybe ARM, but that's what you're looking for. So once you have that, just make a mental note of it. That way you know what version of the StartOS you need to install for your system. So let's go ahead and continue with this process by first creating the Start9OS installer. So to do that, I'm going to navigate to the Start9 website at start9.com, click the Docs button here, and then I'm just going to click the DIY guide here on the in the second row. Here in the DIY section, you're just going to find some information regarding the machines and how you should be installing it. But since we determined that my machine is an x86 machine, I'm going to click DIY x86 and continue on with the process here. Here you can see the recommended OS requirements for any machine that's going to be running Bitcoin. We meet both of these requirements, so we're going to go ahead and continue with the flashing guide. So flashing the system is like flashing any other. We're going to need to download the ISO, and then we're going to need to use this ISO to create a bootable media with the USB drive. So first things first, let's go get the required ISO. So to do that, StartOS tells us to go find it in the GitHub release pages. So let's go ahead and just open that in a new tab here. Before I navigate to this tab, let's just make a mental note of which one that we're going to want. I already know up front that we're going to be wanting the Server 1 version. This contains non-free or closed source software, but it's the recommended version for most DIY hardware. So to keep this easy and straightforward, we're going to be going with the Server 1 x86-64 non-free ISO. So let's go ahead and navigate to the GitHub releases, and let's find that one, which is going to be down here, the x86-64 non-free version. Let's double check it back here. Yep, so I'm going to go ahead and click this one here and begin the download. If you're using a Mac, you'd be using one of these Arch versions. The Raspberry Pi has its own version, but we're going to be using this one here. So let's go ahead and start the download. While this is downloading, let's go ahead and also download Balena Etcher. So Balena Etcher is going to be the tool that we're going to use to flash the ISO image to our SD card and make our SD bootable. So go ahead and download Balena Etcher if you don't have one yet. I am using my Linux machine, so I already have a tool that does the same thing. It's called Popsicle. So here it is, and Popsicle is what I'm going to be using. I do recommend you use Balena Etcher if you don't have any other tool that you're already familiar with, just because Balena Etcher is a cross-platform tool and it will work for Windows, Mac, and Linux. So go ahead and get this tool installed. Now that I have the StartOS ISO downloaded to my PC and I have a tool to flash this ISO to my USB drive, let's go ahead and continue with our process here. So I have Popsicle open and I have my USB drive plugged into my computer into an open USB port. Now, Balena Etcher and Popsicle are very, very similar. So the first things that we're going to do is we're going to pick our disk image, or you might need to pick the target drive first. But in my case, I got to pick the image. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate to my downloads and select the StartOS ISO that we just downloaded. I'm going to click this, go ahead and press next, and now it's going to ask me where do I want to install this to. So you should find your USB drive from the list here. Balena Etcher is the same thing. You're going to pick your USB drive, then you're going to pick your image, then you're going to continue with the flashing process. Make sure you select the target USB drive that you want to flash this to, because this is going to delete everything on that target drive. So you don't want to get this wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and click this drive here that I know is my USB. Click next, and it's going to ask me for my password. And now we just wait a few minutes for this ISO to flash to our USB drive. With the USB flash completed, we can now continue on to step 3 of installing StartOS and configuring it onto our new server. Before we jump into installing and configuring the StartOS software, let me just briefly explain what we're going to be doing here. So here, my server is still in my back room and it's on my test bench. So I'm going to go ahead and plug my server into a monitor that I have lying around and plug in a wired keyboard and mouse. What we're going to do when we're in this state is we're going to flash the Start9OS onto the SSD. And then once we have that flashed, then we're going to go plug in our server into our network. That way we can finish our configuration remotely using our other server. That way I don't need to be plugging and unplugging this monitor and keyboards and all that stuff. We'll be using our main PC to be doing all of that. So with everything plugged in and ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my PC. And we're going to insert our newly created ISO installer. Let's go ahead and plug in the ISO installer. With the ISO installer plugged in, let's go ahead and power it on. But when we power it on, we're going to be spamming the escape key because we want to enter the BIOS. Your computer might be something else, might be F12, might be enter, it might be the delete key, but I know my PC is the escape key. So I'm going to go ahead and press the power button, and then I'm going to spam the escape key a couple times, and we'll see what happens. You'll see that it's taking us into the BIOS. Oh, wait, no, it didn't. Let's try again. Okay, let's turn it back on. And this time I'm going to spam the delete key because I think that's what it said better. Let's try it again. Okay, so we're in the BIOS. Now we need to tell our computer that we want to boot from our USB drive. So once again, our USB drive with Start9 installer is plugged in. So let's go ahead and just navigate over using the keyboard to boot, or yours will look different than this, but you're still going to have the same general settings. So once we're in boot, we're going to look for a boot override section or a one-time boot section, and we're going to find the name of our USB drive. So here's mine, the PNY USB. So I'm going to go ahead and click enter, and we're basically going to tell our computer to boot from this drive. We're going to click the center option, or the top option, I mean, the default option that gets selected by itself, and just let Start09 OS, and we'll just let the Start9 installer do its thing. The Start9 OS installer is a nice, has a nice graphical interface, so our mouse and keyboard is going to work just like any other computer once it starts up. Start9 OS calls this the kiosk mode. So now that we're here, we're logged in, you can see that it automatically opens up this browser. It's going to ask us where do we want to install Start9 OS to. So I'm going to go ahead and click my 2 terabyte drive that we have lying around here. And we're going to start installing it. It says it's going to delete everything on the existing disk, so just be aware of that everything that you have on that drive that we're installing to is going to be erased. So make sure you have everything backed up prior to starting this process. Let's go ahead and continue. With the StartOS install completed, let's go ahead and do what it says. Let's remove the USB stick and reboot the device. So I'm going to go ahead and click reboot. and then quickly just yank it out. Now we have the drive out, and Start 9 should just start up, since now we have it installed onto our internal drive. So I'm not going to press anything here, and you'll see it's going to automatically take us to StartOS. Good. Now that we're here, let's go ahead and move our server to its final location, where it's going to be plugged into the back of the router, and then we're going to continue this configuration from our main PC back in our office. So I'm going to take this monitor and I'm going to put it back right here where I had it, and then we're going to continue our installation process remotely. So let's go ahead and power everything down, then move the server to its final location. You can ignore the screen here that says select storage drive. I just clicked the start fresh option, but we're going to do this again right now once I move the server. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're back. We plugged in our server into the back of my router. Here's an image I took. So here's my server here on the right side. It's it doesn't have the keyboard or the mouse plugged in or the monitor plugged in anymore. Instead, we have the single RJ45 cable going into the back of our router. So by doing this, it's going to be assigned an IP address and it should be available on our network. So if I, here on the computer that I'm on right now, if I open up a web browser and I type in HTTPS // actually no, not HTTPS, just HTTP / start.local, it should take us to the web page of that server. Notice I'm having a little bit of issues here on my browser, so I'm going to go directly to the IP of this server. So to find that, I'm going to log into my router settings, which is for you, it's also probably 192.168.1.1, but it might be something else. But anyways, access your router settings and go to your connected devices list. And in here, you should find your Start9 OS server somewhere. So here's mine right here at 192.168.1.33. So I'm going to go ahead and take this IP address, and I'm just going to paste it here instead of start.local. I'm going to give it the direct IP address to that server and press enter. And you're going to see that we are left at that same screen that we had right before we moved the server from my workbench to its final location. So now that we're in here, let's go ahead and just continue the installation. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start Fresh. Here's the 2 terabyte drive that we installed StartOS to. We're going to tell it that this is where we want our storage to also be saved to. So let's go ahead and click this. And now we're going to want a password for the server. So you should definitely make something good, maybe put it in a password manager. But for me, I'm just going to call it password 1234. Just because once I'm done with this demo, I'm going to be repurposing that server and I'll be running a Bitcoin node on it, but I'll be using Proxmox to host my server. So let's go ahead and put in a simple password here. Password 1234. Press finish. And we're going to let it do its thing. Awesome. So it looks like Start9 is now working. It's going to tell us that the start.local is only for setup and it's not going to work anymore. So that's fine. Let's go ahead and download our address info. So that's here. Let's go ahead and prompt to keep. It's asking us to keep it because we are connected via HTTP and not HTTPS, and that's why it says not secure. But if we do this step here, trusting our root certificate authority, then that will allow us to connect to our server using HTTPS or a secure connection. So let's go ahead and just follow these steps here. So I downloaded this already, and it says in the new tab, follow instructions to trust your server's your root certificate authority and login. So I'm gonna go ahead and just open this then. This is what we downloaded. Okay, so here we are at our StartOS address info. You can see that this is going to be our new name for our server. So let's go ahead and just take this, and I'm going to just close some of these guys, and I'm going to paste it here so we can open up our real server. So here it is, and it's going to give us these same instructions kind of again. We already downloaded the certificate, or did we? I don't think I did in this video. So I'm going to click download certificate. There we have it. And then I'm going to go back to this page here, which is right here. Okay, so we have our root certificate downloaded. Now we're going to go ahead and trust this certificate using the instructions here. So based on your system, it might be a little bit different. I'm on Linux, I'm on Arch Linux here. So I'm gonna follow this step here that just says I have to download this package, which I already have. And then it basically says I need to move the adjective-noun.crt into this folder here. So if I look at my downloads, you'll see that we downloaded valid-liquor.local. That's the name of my certificate. So let's go ahead and just run this here. So I already downloaded it. It's in my downloads folder. So let me just get some out of the way. I'm gonna go to my downloads so you can see it. Oops. CD downloads. Then you can see that in here, I have my certificate here, validliquor.local. So we're gonna go ahead and run this command. So I'm gonna do sudo cp validliquor, and I'm gonna move it to the etc ca certificates trust source anchors. And then I'll put my password in. And then finally, I'll do the last step here to update the trust here. So I'll run that command, sudo update ca trust. And then I think that should be it. Now we should be able to connect to our server using HTTPS. So let's try to refresh this page and see what happens. We might need to close this whole thing. So let me just close everything and let's just open up another one and see what happens. And then what was it called? Validliquor.local. But now we're going to go HTTPS. I think these domain name resolutions aren't really working for me all that good. I should still be on 192.168.1.33 though. So let's try that out. It says I'm not secure still. Let's try to force a secure connection and see what happens. Yeah, and see, and now it's working. See, we're logged in through HTTPS. It says connection is secure. So I think I'm having issues with my local DNS name resolutions. So I have to connect with the IP address. So that's fine. I'm gonna go ahead and log in with my password that I set, password 1234. Oops. Password 1234. So here we are in Start9OS, and as you can see here at the top, I fixed the issue I was having. It turns out my VPN just wasn't playing nicely with this DNS, with this local DNS resolution. So anyways, here's the StartOS landing page. Here on the right side, we have our shortcuts, and on the left side, we have our tab navigator. To download apps, we're going to go to the marketplace, and here apps are bundled in their registries. So the Start9 registry is a collection of apps that the Start9 team packaged, and we can change that and go to the community registry to look at the collection of apps that the community is maintaining. So we're going to scroll down here and we're going to click the Bitcoin Knots software and we're going to install it. Once our software is installed, let's go ahead and click View Installed, and as you see, it needs its configuration before it can start. So let's go ahead and press the configure button, and we can go ahead and just press the save button, and it's going to run with all defaults. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we can start the software. So this is going to take some time to run, but we can go ahead and enable the Electrs software. So let's go ahead and do that, and that exists in the Start9 registry. So here it is. Let's go ahead and do the same thing. So Electrs is basically just an Electrum server. And what this does is this is a piece of software that sits between the Bitcoin node and your wallet software. So like Sparrow wallet would talk to the Electrs software. It's like a lightweight database that makes it really easy to perform lookups specific to the wallet that you're interested in. So this is the same thing. Let's go ahead and press configure, and we're just going to press save to run with all the defaults. And then we're going to start it. And now we just wait. Both of these services need a sync, so this is going to take some time. It might take a few days, maybe even a week. When that's done, then Electrs can finish, because Electrs is waiting for all this block information. We can scroll down and we can check out all the logs for these services as well, just to see what they're doing. So we can go look at the Bitcoin service. And you can see that it's just finding blocks. It's just trying to catch up. So this has to catch all the way up to the current chain tip. So you can see here that we're currently on block 33,000, but right now in today's day, the Bitcoin blockchain is like at block 930,000. So we got a long ways to go. If you make your own apps and you want to run it here on the StartOS, you can go down to System, and there's a sideloaded service section here. You click this, and you could upload your own package. So I'm pretty sure these .s9pk packages, they're just like wrappers to Docker files or Docker composes. I don't know, but I think it's a containerized application. So if you're into like creating your own apps, this is pretty straightforward. So with all that out of the way, let me just show you how to connect your Sparrow wallet to your Bitcoin node. For me, this is not going to work right away just because my nodes aren't synced, but ideally you would do this next step after both of your softwares are fully synced. So let's go ahead and open up our Sparrow wallet. So here's my Sparrow wallet. Now let's go ahead and go to File, Settings, and then Server, and then click Edit Settings. And here on the top right, we're going to want to make sure we click Private Electrum. I already have something in here. Let me just delete this. But we're going to make sure we have Private Electrum here. Now to get our host address, we got to go back to Start9. We're going to click our Electr service, and we're going to scroll down to the properties. And here you can see the host name to connect to it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and take it back to Sparrow and just paste it here. And if we look back here, it says port 50,001. So let's also get that port and let's paste it here. So that's pretty much all there is to it. You should be able to press test connection and it should connect once your nodes once your services are synced. For me, it's probably just going to hang here. Another thing to notice here is this is a .onion URL. So you should be able to connect to this from anywhere. So you don't need to be on your home Wi-Fi to be able to connect to this through the Tor network. Oh, and one last thing before I wrap up the video. I kind of flew over this landing page here, or this HTML download that we had to do in the very beginning of our setup, but it does tell us that we can access this on the go. So if we do have a Tor browser, we can go to this URL, and we should be able to manage our Start9 node from remotely outside of our network. So it's a really nice bonus of using Start9. So that's all I have for today's video. If you like the content, please drop a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments or email me at andrew@dprogram.me. And if you need help or one-on-one time, book some time with me on my site. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.